Hey guys, I hope you've had a great week so far. It's me, Jana, and this week we're talking about our readings on the group theater. And I initially thought, boy, I'm going to take the essays that I already wrote and I'm going to list out things and I'm going to go back and talk about all of the takeaways that I had from the readings. But I decided to go a different direction in the takeaways overall from both. And I came up with three main takeaways that really affected me from the readings this week, which I loved, both of which I loved, that are literal takeaways because each of them kind of took me away from the readings themselves in a way. Starting with the review that we read on the group theater for essay number one. It was a review of a book written by Harold Clurman entitled The Fervent Years, the Group Theater in the 30s. And I was so enthralled by the review of this book. I immediately went on Amazon. I've already got it ordered. I cannot wait. I was struck in the first sentence, or it's really the first sentence of my paper, but the title of the book, The Fervent Years, and the word fervent. And just spending my time this week thinking about starting with the Moscow Art Theater that we learned about last week and into the group theater and how they were so inspired by the MAT and took many of its tenets and philosophies and made it their own and reinterpreted some of them with the different directors and teachers. It is so inspiring to me because this was a group of people in both cases, but especially the group theater in America, where even at the time I was really struck by the fact in the chapter reading when it talked about the theater in America was already in the early 1900s commercial. And the actors, big names that we've heard of growing up and learned about, were stars. And the theater companies in New York on Broadway were about promoting the stars and making money. And how even the small characters, it didn't matter who was playing them or how good they were or were not, because it was all about the star and less about the material and an honest telling of the story until the Moscow Art Theater came and people were just blown away and mesmerized that even actors in the smallest parts were focused and in the moment and brilliant. I just love that because it just really speaks to my training and how I try to teach and train my students and how I try to direct them. And no small parts, and how everybody should be living 100% of the time in the moment. So that really stood out to me, and it kind of took me outside of the reading as I did more looking at the book, The Fervent Years itself. I loved in that review the discussion of the relationship between Clurman and Odette's and that mutual respect and the promotion of each other's talents. And I overall, just the idea of the group theater in America, a group of people came together for such a long period of time, wanting to create pure art, wanting to be excellent, striving to be at the utmost of real, believable telling of these stories through their acting and directing decisions. Just, they weren't trying to be stars and they weren't trying to make money. They were not in search of clicks and likes. They were creating art. And that just is so inspiring to me. So that was the big first takeaway, and the taking me away from the material as I was looking at the book itself. The second one was mention of Boleslavsky. When I was in college, getting my acting degree, I studied a little bit of Boleslavsky because he, in my professor's view, was similar to Stanislavski. I even dug out my old textbook, which, when I say old, it was old when I got it years and years ago. This is the 21st printing, which was in 1971. The original printing was 1933. But it's acting lessons, the first 6 acting lessons by Boleslavsky. So I had an introduction to him, so I loved the mention of him and his partner Uspinskaya, Maria. I'm pardon my pronunciation if it's incorrect. Can I just read the beginning of this book? If you guys don't know about this book by Richard Boleslavsky, I recommend it. It was so fun to pull it out, and I had forgotten this, but it's all written as a play, basically. The very first lesson is concentration, and it starts out, morning, my room, a knock at the door. I come in, and the door opens, and the creature enters, who's 18, and the creature says, I hear that you teach dramatic art. And he says, no, I'm sorry, art cannot be taught. To possess an art means to possess talent. That is something one has or has not. You can develop it by hard work, but to create a talent is impossible. And it just, every single sentence, I was mesmerized. And then I found myself going away from the reading because I started reading this again. So that was another takeaway and a taker outside of the readings for me. And lastly, I want to talk about the movie that was mentioned in our chapter in our text, where he talked about how when the Moscow Art Theater came and how it mesmerized, and the writer of our book kind of imagined that it was similar to a scene from a movie that he taught. It was a Czechoslovakian movie. Made in 1965, entitled "The Shop on Main Street," and so I was taken by that impression. So I thought, wow, if he really thought that was the acting from that film, it must have been what it was like to see the Moscow Art Theater. I had to see it, and you can find it on YouTube. It's there, and I found the whole entire movie. So now I've ordered a book, The Fervent Years. I've reacquainted myself with this book, and I have located a movie to watch. So all of which are outside of our actual readings, which is kind of fun because it's summer for me. So I'm not actively teaching students right now. So it has been awesome to read these things and reacquaint myself with the beginnings, and to remind myself about what it is that I love about theater, just the pure pursuit of telling real stories in a real way that is moving and life-changing. The power that we have as theater people. So thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed reading these chapters as well. And I look forward to seeing your recordings and how this week's readings moved you and what it meant to you. Thank you.